Did you dream of being a mom as you were growing up? Did you think that being a mom was going to be easier than it actually is? Or even regretted something that you've done in a weak moment? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then you are not alone. Anger isn't necessarily a bad thing. What we do with our anger can be an issue. In order to work through something like anger, you need to look at the whole person. So that being your body, our physical being, our soul, our mind, our will, and our emotion, and then the spiritual aspect. Hi, my name is Sierra McDowell, and I'm a mom to 3 littles. Being a mama, those little kids are like mirrors, so sometimes they hold it up and we just see those ugly pieces of us that we don't necessarily want to look at. But struggling is a really good place to be, because that means that you are at a spot where you are ready and willing to do something about it, and it takes a lot to get there. So hang in there. Let's get into our physical body. If you are a woman, you have some hormones that can get a little crazy on you. I suggest every woman to get her hormones checked every year. No, I am not an expert. I am someone that has walked through this journey myself, and learning that some of my anger was coming from a very physical place within me and felt almost uncontrollable. If you want to understand going through getting your hormones checked or seeing a holistic doctor, then you can check out this video and I will walk you through what that journey is. In order for you to be the best mama you can be and to be the best version of yourself, you have to take care of your physical body and understanding where some of your anger might be coming from. The next one is our soul. This is our mind, our will, and our emotion, the things that make you you, the beautiful parts and also the parts that we're working through. And so what triggers your anger? It can be being overstimulated when those whiny voices just seem to not end, having a messy house, or not feeling heard or seen, or you not feeling satisfied in the way that your role in motherhood has played out. But understand what your triggers are and what stirs some of that anger within you. We all have desires, right? And they can be a beautiful thing. Maybe your journey in motherhood started with a desire of wanting to be a mom. It can create life and beauty. Our passion starts within, but they need to be something that you are aware of, because desires grow and they will start kicking up against everything else. Desires become wants, and wants become expectations, and expectations become needs. And when we have a need as a human being, we will do just about anything to get those needs met. It is how we survive in this world. When we feel like we have a need, like water, you will find a way to get that water. Food, housing, love, acceptance, approval, all of these different things where they become needs, you will do anything and compromise things that you might not have ever thought that you would compromise on, because that need is there and stirring within you, and you need to have it addressed and fixed. I desire well-behaved children. I desire them not to fight, and then I want them to control their temper. And then I expect them not to have a full-on meltdown when they're having a hard time with that anger. So this is when it becomes a little bit messy. When my expectations go unmet, I feel the need to do something about it, to correct it. So then I need my child to chill the heck out. That's when the anger steps in. I mean, it's easy to say like, okay, yeah, if you have a toddler, they're going to have these temper tantrums, they're going to freak out. But when you're in those moments and it is happening, it's a different story, because what is happening within you and what your expectations are of maybe when you are out in public and what would be happening, what would not be happening, actually start to take over. That's how those desires start to take over and step into the place of what our decision making and our frustration might start to come from. The work in really understanding what your desires and your expectations and your wants and your needs are for yourself, and also what you have for your children and what your expectations are for them. It could be when you're trying to cook dinner and you just seem like you can't get dinner cooked because the kids are at your feet and they are interrupting you 100 times. Make it be calm for the first few moments, and then as it continues to build, this anger starts to take over because you're expecting that you're able to get that dinner done and on the table for them. If you've been up all night with a little one and you have not gotten 8 hours of sleep and you're still expecting yourself to function like you did, but in reality you only got 2, then that's an area to understand what your expectations are of yourself in those moments. Could it be when you are extremely drained and you feel like you have nothing left to give, and yet again someone is just attached to you and clingy and needing something from you and trying to figure something out, and you feel like you are so depleted? Could it be when you are laying in bed and you are done with the day winding down and your husband looks over and gives you those eyes and you are like, oh, here we go again. I was expecting to go to sleep, not to do this. So what is it that you are expecting from yourself and the relationships and the people that are in your home? Another area is grieving your expectations. Things won't always look like what we had imagined in our mind. Sometimes they play out very differently than what we had pictured. Grieving the loss of what you had expected is an important step. Maybe it's sitting down and writing about what it was that you had envisioned that actually isn't playing out, so that you can readjust in a way that will help you move through it. Because if you do not grieve them, then there will be something that is still within you that will try to seek after it and still have it play out that way, and you will feel like you are bouncing up against a wall and you just cannot break through it. I needed to grieve the expectations of the mom that I thought I was going to be, because I thought that momming was going to be easier. God was going to just do something within me and work a miracle that was going to surpass all of my dreams and hopes. And when I realized that I am really quite still human and struggle, I had to address what my expectations were, because they were not necessarily attainable and they were not something that I could actually function in and do well. And so I was constantly disappointed in myself because I was not able to step up to the role that I thought that I should be able to. But that does not mean I'm not a great mom, and also needs to correct herself at times. But being able to grieve that in order to adjust to the mom that I am and then function in that role even better is freeing, and is something that helps you really understand how to adjust those expectations that you have of yourself. So recognize those warning signs. We usually have a warning within inside of our body of what it feels like when that anger arises and when it starts to sleep out. For me, my jaw gets tight, or I feel tense, like a heat is running through my body. Knowing what your warning sign is before you react in your rage or your anger is extremely helpful and very important for you to be aware of, because you will know when that warning sign comes. It is the moment where you retreat to gather yourself, to take responsibility for yourself, and to figure out a different way of doing things rather than being reactive in the moment. But if you do not take these warning signs and you do not learn from them and you react in your anger or rage, then you will pretty much always regret the outcome. So now we get into the area of our spirits. We are all spiritual beings. We were made in the image of God, and this is a part of us. We are all spiritual people. Struggling with anger means that the work of the Holy Spirit is at play here, right? And that He is helping you and growing you. It is something you need to look at and to address, versus being a prideful person that wants to take the place of God and say, I will do it, I will correct it, and I have got this on my own. Because we don't, right? We don't have it on our own, and we need some intervention and some help at times. So anger comes from a place when you are trying to take back control, when you are at a spot where you feel like your needs not going met, your expectations aren't being met, and you want to manifest that and create that and make that happen. So the anger comes up, and so that you can control the situation and have the outcome in which you want. When I had hit my point of realizing that my anger was something that really needed to be addressed, I'd reacted in a bad way and I felt terrible and so shameful. You know, my children would be better with a more patient, loving mom, and I hit a really, really low point. And my husband reached out to a friend of mine to ask for help and to speak with me. And I was angry. I was really angry that he did that, because I was embarrassed. I didn't want her to see that side of me. You know, when we are struggling with something that's ugly or sinful, we don't want people in there. We don't want people to see that. And that's exactly where sin likes to grow, right? It is like a mold. The darker, the damper, the more that mold will take over. Not that I want to hide it, but it needed to come to light. Spiritually, we are created as beings that live in community. And so sometimes those areas need to be brought to light so that we can get the help that we need, so that we can walk through and repair some of the damage that we have done within acting in our sin. And being people that are created for community, God likes to use his other children to help heal his children, alongside with him. So bringing those things to light and inviting people in is part of the design that God has in helping us be overcomers and dealing with certain areas that we may be struggling with. It's not always fun because it's scary to let someone into those places, and it takes a lot to be vulnerable in doing that. But one of the things she had shared with me was, okay, so you acted in your anger and it was ugly and you need to take responsibility for it. But that was a warning. So now what are you going to do with it? And what are you going to do about it? Are you going to try to pretend that it's not there, or are you going to address it and learn from it and press into God and have him help you through that process? That's really what it is, right? Is when those people can come alongside of you and point you towards Christ and speak truth into your life, even if it hurts, but in a beautiful, loving way. Truth doesn't always feel good, but truth is the thing that is right, and when it is given in love is very healing. I heard this not long ago where it's, if you're struggling with anger, you don't go read about patience in the Bible. You go and you read about anger and you learn about what anger is and how to address it. You don't read and research the opposite, even though yes, maybe it is that you need more patience. You need to really first address the anger and then you can move on to patience. So invite God in and find those people in your life that you can say, hey, I'm at a point where I'm struggling, and bring them in for prayer and helping you look at it and address these areas. Stop looking at all these other people and these other moms like they have it all together, and that causing you to be scared to approach and seeking help. If you are surrounding yourself with good people and finding those right people in your life, or maybe it's time for you to go and look for some of them, find those relationships where you can be vulnerable and open. If you have a husband, talk to him about it. Like, he's your partner. He is the one that is there for you and that is taking on this parenting role with you. So use him as a resource. Process that information with him. Go talk to a counselor. I know I say this all the time, but please just go, because really, okay, this is a video about talking about anger, but if you have some deep rooted things that are there and you need to understand them a little bit more for yourself and being the best person and the best mama, then go and do the work and figure out what that means for you and your story. Also journaling, and I'm not someone that is good at journaling. I'm just, my ADHD and dyslexic brain just don't like sitting there and writing it out. So doing video journal entries has been really helpful and healing for me, and you can start to see patterns maybe if you're not aware of where your anger is triggering from, and seeing what some of those things are and being aware of what is actually taking place in your mind and in your heart. Things that bring you joy, and being a mom, it is a role that you are constantly dying to yourself, right? That's what it is, and you're called to do that, and it is a gift, but at the same time, you are still you. You still have desires, and you still have things that God has placed within you, and it is not selfish or wrong to get some of those needs met that are in an honoring way to God and honoring way to your family. Find the things that bring you some joy. It does not need to, maximize your space and time, but it can be something that is small that you can just kind of incorporate into your life and weave it through here and there. All right, so now the questions that I have for you that you can go and talk to someone about. Is your anger more internal, or is it something that is external? That internal anger can grow into resentment and bitterness. What unfulfilled expectations do you have of yourself and of your children? And then how is it that you can address these unmet expectations and realign them? And last is, what are you going to do this week in taking responsibility for your anger and addressing it? So that's what I got for you on anger today, mamas. Check out these videos and I will see you over there.